up, y'all, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Destiny Jenae, aka your favorite astrology weather woman, or astrologer as some people call us. And I just felt like I needed to talk to you real bad about eclipses and the nodes through the houses, because literally eclipses are like the source of some of our biggest and like fastest life changes. This is just a video that I would have wanted when I was like learning about astrology, learning about eclipses. I feel like it would have really been helpful. And the thing is too is that I think a lot of information that's out there is very good, but it's also very like computer generated type of thing. It's not really personal. So like I really just want to tell you guys like what I've seen with my clients, what I've observed with just people, and also what I've experienced too, just so that you can get like kind of more of a full sense of the picture. Also, this video is brought to you by my 2024 astrology and manifestation planner, which literally shows you all of the astrology weather in the world, and it also teaches you all about astrology, teaches you how to manifest, and it's really good with getting your goals together. I've also enchanted this image and anything that this image is on to really boost up manifestations, but it also just helps you get your life together. You get to see, you know, every single time the moon changes signs, you always get to know when there's a new moon, when there's a full moon, what sign Venus is in at any given time. So if you're interested in using astrology to manifest and getting what you want out of life and getting more organized, and honestly I just made this for the spiritual girlies who need to get it together. Yeah, I just love it, and it's available on my website destinyjenae.com as a digital download, but also on my website you can find the link to the Amazon physical book. Okay, let's get to the bare bone. What is an eclipse? An eclipse is basically a new moon or a full moon on steroids. Like, it's a very, very, very intense new or full moon. Essentially, the sun and the moon, right? They are called luminaries. They bring light into the world. Sun is where you shine the most in your birth chart. The moon, it's your emotions, and it's also like a little bit of your dark side as well. So whenever the sun or the moon is close to one of the nodes, which are the north node or the south node, which are kind of like these invisible calculated points, but the energy is very chaotic. Sometimes it's chaotic good, sometimes it's chaotic bad. It really just depends on the eclipse, where it's falling for you, and a bunch of other stuff, which I really want to get into in this video. Eclipses bring huge life changes. Like, actually, just for example, there was an eclipse that I had once in my 5th house of creativity, creative projects, content, love, sex, and all of that stuff. I had an eclipse there, and I created my TikTok, and it literally blew up. Like, literally ever since that day, like, it was just viral for like months straight, and I gained hundreds of thousands of followers like in that year. Because the thing is too that eclipses, they're not just something that changed the world or your world right then and there. Like, they also kind of set the tone for like the next year, the next 6 months. Like, it was like a really big change. It wasn't anything I was like expecting. Like, it was something I was planning for, but it wasn't something I was expecting at all. And that's the thing, is that eclipses are like the wild card in astrology. And the only thing that I can describe that's close to eclipse energy is Uranus, which is like the planet of random chaotic change and like innovation and stuff. So with that being said, I do have all of the houses time-stamped. This is a video that you'll probably come back to a lot. You'll probably want to look at it when you're having an eclipse in that house. And the thing is, the eclipses, like the nodes which cause eclipses, they change every like year and a half. So like, this is gonna be like, you'll probably end up watching this video in its entirety at some point. Okay, also another thing that I need to let you know before you go is how houses work. Okay, so in astrology, there's your birth chart being a screenshot of the sky at the second that you're born, and then your birth chart is split into 12 sections, 12 houses, 12 areas of a life. And so each of these houses, though, you can't talk about one without also talking about the other one. And so that's why usually eclipses, like, they're not just on one topic. So basically, the north node in astrology is where the universe is pushing you, because the north and south nodes, they deal with fate, they deal with destiny. And so the thing is, sometimes when you have activations to the node, like an eclipse or something, It's going to sometimes make things happen that maybe would have taken months or years or decades to happen. Like, it's gonna happen now, and it's gonna change your life, and it's gonna give you whiplash a little bit. Like, when I think of eclipses, I think of whiplash. The North Node is very much like, okay, this is where the universe wants you to be right now. This is where you need to learn something. This is where you may be obsessed or very interested in something. And the South Node is kind of like, it can represent the past, getting rid of your past bad habits, things that aren't really working for you anymore, and really just releasing the energy, releasing toxic patterns, toxic people. Even outgrowing things is like a really big thing with the South Node too. But yeah, now that you know like the basics, now let's go ahead and talk about it through the houses. So if you have the North Node in your first house and the South Node in your 7th house, it also means that you're going to be having eclipses throughout those houses too. Whenever you have the North Node in your first house, it's very much like this huge change to your identity. Like, you may all of a sudden just switch up, and like the people around you are confused. They have whiplash because of you, because you're growing in all these new ways. You're changing your appearance, you're changing your body, transforming your body. You might be in the gym, you might get plastic surgery, you might do something to your hair. The way that you dress is changing, your body language is changing, who you are, what you act like, it's shifting. And when I was having eclipses in my first house, these are things that literally changed my identity. And you can't really talk about the first house without also talking about the 7th house. And the thing is too, like, the 7th house mostly deals with marriage, it deals with relationships, it deals with just the other people in your life, period. And so when you have the South Node here, you're being asked to let go of people. You're having experiences in your life, particularly if it's an eclipse in your 7th house. You're having experiences in your life that are making you realize who you need to get rid of, who you need to cut off, what is not good for you, what you don't want in relationships. And so because you're kind of dealing with this turmoil between who you are, who you identify as, who your partners think you are, who they want you to be, and who you actually are, it's kind of like all of this is pushing you into a new version of yourself, if that makes sense. When I was having eclipses between my first house and my 7th house, it was an intense time for me. I was a freshman in college. It was just a very chaotic time in my life because not only did I not know who I was, but I was also like showing up in relationships as someone who didn't know who they were, and I was also dealing with other people who didn't know who they were. So it was just like a gumbo, a melting pot of just like, what the fuck. I will say, like, I had a really big glow up, and I got a lot more confident in who I was, and I also got a lot more confident in like what I didn't want out of relationships, who I didn't want. Like, the focus of my life was very much on me. Like, I vividly remember having an argument with someone that I was in a situationship with, and I was like, I am the main character in the movie of my life, you are a side character. Like, don't get me wrong, it sounds crazy. Also, that's my dog right there. Yeah, if you hear him sleeping. Yeah, it's a very much like me-centered time, and it's very much a time where you should be putting yourself first and not really allowing yourself to like fall into old habits or fall into situations or relationships that you don't really want. And it's important to remember what you want and like not to allow anybody to change your mind so that you go into like doing what they want you to do. It's very important to have a strong sense of self, and like if you don't and you're going into eclipses between the first house or the 7th house, you will build a strong sense of self whether you like it or not, babe. Whether you like it or not. You know, an eclipse in the first house, it can be a huge change to who you are. You can get like a new job upgrade or like some sort of change in a relationship. You may even be like getting into a relationship, but that relationship is also changing the fabric of who you are, and you're kind of going through this rebrand. Like, eclipses in the first house are very much rebrand energy. Eclipses in the 7th house are very much like, whoa, who do I love? Why do I love you? Do I want to love you? And why do I love you? Like, why? What are the things in my life that are influencing me to like you or not like you? And also, like, eclipses in the 7th house aren't just romantic. Sometimes it can be huge changes that you're having with your friends, or especially if you work in some sort of job. Like, if you're an entrepreneur or if you're like an astrologer like I am, if you see clients in any way or if you sell products, like there may be a change between you and the people who are engaging in your business, like the people, your customers, your clients, business partners, people that you're investing money with, people that you have a business with. There will be some sort of change, especially dealing with letting go. And the thing is too, sometimes things are eclipsed out of our life. Like it's an eclipse, it's gone at times. So like sometimes a piece of, if you're having an eclipse in the first house, a piece of who you are is eclipsed out. If you're having eclipses in the 7th house, it may be a partner who is eclipsed out. You may discover some sort of information or just have some sort of change of heart for like a very random reason. Like I said, the eclipses, they are chaotic. Sometimes they're chaotic good, sometimes chaotic bad, sometimes just chaos. Okay, so now if you're having eclipses or the north and south node throughout your 12th house and your 6th house, you are likely going through very intense changes that are important for your mental health, and also letting go of any jobs or like toxic job work, co-workers, friends, also any like physical health problems. You're also like letting that go. So like with the north node in 12th house, it's a time where the universe is really pushing you to like really examine the things that you haven't been able to see, because the 12th house is one of the houses in astrology that is hidden. It deals with things that you can't really see, and sometimes even hidden enemies. So like sometimes if you have an eclipse in the 12th house, you may have someone exposed to you, and it's not always that they're working against you actively. I mean, they could just be like a friend who's gossiping behind your back, they're betraying you in some way. I definitely see a lot of betrayals when I see 12th house energy, 12th house synastry particularly. But another thing is just that you need to focus on your mental health. Like you need to realize, like, I need to be okay. Am I okay? Am I not okay? And once you decide that, it's like, okay, if I'm not okay, how do I get okay? Like, do I need to see therapy? What is it that needs to change in the way that I'm taking care of my mental health? Also, your sleep. The 12th house is very much sleep, spirituality. When I was having eclipses in my 12th house, I was very much like, I went to the crystal store for the first time. I had a really intense like spiritual experience when I had an eclipse in my 12th house, and especially like with the north node there too. It's like your spiritual experiences and your experiences with your mental health, those are the faded changes in your life at that time. I also had eclipses in my 12th house and I got therapy. So if you're having the south node in your 6th house, it can be that like maybe you're overworking yourself and you need to like pull yourself out of that, or you're just really releasing like something about your work ethic, because the 6th house is like places that you go every day. So like if you're a student, it would be school. If you're an adult and you have a job, it would be that job, career. If you're like a stay-at-home mom, it would be like those things. It's kind of like your tasks, like your everyday type of duties. Eclipses in the 6th house too, they can kind of change your job. Like I remember when I was having eclipses between my 12th and my 6th, particularly in my 6th, I honestly got a job that I really liked and I really enjoyed it. So it can just be that like you're kind of getting rid of an old job, you're having a different type of upgrade. Something is eclipsed out of the things that you do every day. Like maybe you're also getting rid of a bad habit. But the 6th house is also like your physical health. And I was also like, I was teaching myself how to work out in the gym. That was something that I did a lot. The 6th house also deals with pets, so there may be changes to your pets. You may get a new pet, pet may run away or something. Really intense life changes around those areas of your life. So if you're having eclipses between your 11th house and your 5th house, particularly with the north node in your 11th house and the south node in your 5th house, we are in for a very big roller coaster ride with your love life. Not that I would know anything about that at all. So essentially, whenever the north node is in your 11th house, you're really being pushed toward your communities. And what do I mean by communities? Okay, the 11th house can also deal with the internet. So like your internet friends, your mutuals, your followers on the internet, also like people that are like-minded to you. You know, you guys all have something in common, like the One Direction fandom, Stan Twitter, the gym community. At this point, I'm just listing things that I've been a part of that count as my 11th house. But also, like if you're like an influencer or something, this definitely counts as your audience. It deals with networking and things. So you may be pushed to meet new friends, people that you really enjoy being around. And I've noticed like 11th house energy is very much like, it's just pal energy. Like you feel like my best friend. Like even if you have like 11th house industry with a lover or something, it can feel like they're like your best friend. Even if you are romantically involved, like the connection is very much built upon like a very strong and solid friendship. So an eclipse in the 11th house can deal with like something that you're posting going viral. It can also deal with like you meeting a new friend that you really enjoy, or you know, cutting off some friends, or just naturally outgrowing, you know, going your separate ways with your friends. When I was having eclipses in my 11th house, that was around the time my TikTok was going viral. I was kind of getting a bigger sense of the type of content that I like to create, but I also think that was like related to the South Node being in my 5th house too. So like with South Node in the 5th house, it's kind of like you're releasing your lovers. You're releasing lovers that kind of have overstayed their welcome, or lovers that just aren't really what you want anymore. You're releasing sexual partners even, because the 5th house deals with love, it deals with creativity, it specifically deals with sex. And I would imagine that some people who have eclipses in their 5th house, especially like South Node ones, they may discover that they're pregnant, or something may change in your child's life if you have children. And yeah, for me, my personal experience, I've seen myself kind of changing up the type of content that I make. Because if you didn't know, I used to make a lot of fitness content, and that was like my thing. But I don't know, I was like having a spiritual awakening at the time, and I have Sagittarius in my 5th house, so like the sign matters too, because Sagittarius energy is very spiritual and all that. I was realizing that I would prefer to make content about astrology. Yeah. Like the type of content that you make if you are a content creator may change, or like the type of art that you create, like if you do art, or if you do music, or if you do anything like that, it may change. Really, like letting go of lovers is definitely a big one, especially because eclipses to the 5th house are some of the biggest like romantic changes that you'll have, period. And so like these things will come and go very quickly, like very quick makeups, very quick getting into relationships, very quick breakups, very quick going viral, especially when we're talking about that 11th house 5th house axis. Make sure you let me know down in the comments like what was changing for you when you were having eclipses in your 11th house or your 5th house. Eclipses in the 10th house and the 4th house, babes. So this is an important time, you know, when you're having the North Node in your 10th house, the South Node in your 4th house. So essentially in astrology, there are 4 houses that are like very important. And there's the 1st house of self, the 4th house of family, the 7th house of relationships, and the 10th house of career. Those are like the pillars, those are like the grounding points of your life, period. And especially of your birth chart. And so the 10th house and the 4th house are 2 of those 4 most important houses. And so whenever you're having eclipses here, this is where you're having huge changes to what you want to do, and also your connection with your family. So like when you have the North Node in your 10th house, the universe is pushing you to discover, what do you want to do about your overall life path? How do you want to be perceived as? What do you want your legacy to be after you're gone? Like, what do you want to be known for? Do you like what you're known for? Should you change it? Are you satisfied in your career right now, and do you want to switch it up, or are you okay with where you are? How far can you take success? You know, there will be huge changes to your perception of success with eclipses in the 10th. When I was having eclipses in my 10th house, I was very much like changing what I wanted to do, because like up until that point with my like astrology journey, I had mostly just been like doing readings and like doing like brand deals, that kind of stuff. I didn't have like any products that people can buy other than readings. And so that was actually when I made my first astrology planner. This is like the 2nd edition for this year, which is, it's now the Astrology and Manifestation Planner. Essentially, like I started making journals, and then I made my astrology observation journal, and then I have this enchanted intention journal. Like I started making journals, I started writing, and so that's where like a different side of what I do changed. I also came back to YouTube. Previously, when I used to do fitness content, I used to make a lot of YouTube videos, but those are privated now. and they were all fitness. They were like workouts and stuff. And after I kind of decided like what I wanted to do with my career, I kind of just started branching out, kind of just like establishing myself more in the field, if that makes sense. Now, whenever you have the South Node in your 4th house, it's very much letting go of any toxic family relationships, letting go of even like where you live. You could be moving. I definitely see that a lot with like eclipses in the 4th house. Moving where you live, also like changes with your family, eclipsing something out. So it's like you and a family member getting over a huge argument, squashing your beef. But also the 4th house is like your chosen family too. Like it can be people that you live with, or you know, it can be like your roommates, or it can be like people who are so close to you in your life that they feel like family. So it can also represent a huge change to the life of someone who is in your family. Like, you know, it might be like a mom or a dad or a sibling who is having a huge job change, and you may need to be there and help them out with something, help them move, or like help them get their life together or something. But regardless, a huge change, especially with the South Node there, it's just asking you, what do you need to let go of? There may be grudges you need to let go of. There may be, you know, toxic family members that you need to let go of. That was something that I like personally had experience with an eclipse in my 4th. And also like the 4th house can deal with your personal life. So like it can be a huge change to, because like if the 4th house is the very bottom of the chart, it's the roots, it's the personal life, things that people don't necessarily see. It's not hidden like the 8th house or the 12th houses are, but it's private at the bottom. And then the 10th house is like where you're going up, where you're branching out into this world. And so like I've had pretty huge changes to my personal life, and the people that I consider to be chosen family, they were having big changes in their life. South Node eclipses too can just be like stopping a karmic cycle. Like it's a cycle you've been going round and round, it's a loop, and it's time to squash that shit down. So like that's another way that eclipses in the 4th house can go. Whenever we're talking about eclipses throughout the 9th house and the 3rd house, with the North Node in the 9th house and the South Node in the 3rd house, this is what I'm experiencing right now. I don't want to get into like my personal life right this second, but kind of like you might find yourself like going back to school, something about school, because the 9th house is like your decode beliefs. Do you believe in God? Do you not believe in God? Did the chicken come first? Did the egg come first? It also deals with trips and kind of like higher knowledge. It can deal with high school, it can deal with college. I see people getting into college, graduating from college, taking courses, reading a lot, learning a lot, changing their spiritual relationship with the divine, just becoming a bit more open-minded when it comes to their personal beliefs, even their morals to an extent. And with the South Node in the 3rd house, it's kind of like what you're releasing can be your friends, or it can be releasing old contracts that no longer suit you. It can also be releasing old ways, things that kind of got in the way of you speaking your truth, you know, changing up the way that you speak and kind of letting go of what usually when the South Node is in a house, it's kind of like, okay, something isn't right here. What isn't right, and what do we need to change? What do we need to let go of so that we can move towards the North Node? Yeah, you know, it can also be car changes, car trouble. Very quickly, like something wrong with your car and all of a sudden now you have to get a new one, or now you have to get it fixed. Lots of changes with 3rd house types of things. Also siblings, letting go of old things with siblings, relationships with siblings. Also the 3rd house is kind of like your neighbors and like the energy of the people around you that you see every day. So changes to that. So to an extent, I would even say the 3rd house can represent coworkers a bit. Your neighbors, like there may be a change in one of their lives that you may like deal with or become privy to or something. But with me personally, eclipses in my 9th house and 3rd house, I have spent well over $1,000 on books. I've been reading so much. It's all about spiritual stuff. I saw a different way of looking at life. Honestly, it kind of changed a lot about me, particularly because I'm a very spiritual person. But like if you're not a very spiritual person, this might be a more spiritually inclined time for you. But also like if you're a writer, if you're an actor, like I've seen writers and actors who particularly have very big 9th house placement. You might get a gig in a movie, or you might release a book. Like for me, I got the idea to make my astrology planner into also a manifestation planner too. Like I had that idea when there was like a new moon solar eclipse in my 9th house. With south node eclipses, it's very much letting go of, you know, old people. The sign matters because, like I said, it matters if you have planets in your 9th house or your 3rd house too. Eclipses in my 3rd house have very much been like just reading and like finding a new piece of information that like really rocked my world, or really just kind of like working through what went wrong in a friendship. Where do we go from here? Do we still want to be friends? Like changes to what you want in your friendships. Yeah, so also like eclipses in the 3rd house can really change up like your attitude towards reading and books and like learning and stuff, because the 3rd house definitely deals with like Gemini energy. So yeah, maybe you're like me and reading up on a lot of books. Sometimes the south node can also just deal with like the past and like things coming up from the past that you kind of forgot about, like hobbies that you forgot about, particularly books that you forgot about and things. So if you're having eclipses with the north node in your 8th house and the south node in your 2nd house, 8th house energy is where you are being led at that time. Some of these things that I'm gonna say, like I haven't experienced them personally, but I have seen other astrologers talk about them. So the 8th house deals with money that you share with other people. It deals with your finances. 8th house deals with grief, loss. It can deal with the occult, tarot. Most people know the 8th house as very sexual energy because it deals with Scorpio energy. It deals with your power, your sense of power, and those types of things. So whenever you're having like a north node eclipse here, it's kind of changing up something in your finances. Like any of those things may change. You may experience grief or something. You know, I've seen people who talk about they had eclipses in their 8th house and they have lost someone. I haven't experienced it personally, and I also don't want to scare you because the 8th house, it deals with so many things. Like, you know, you may get like a windfall of money. That's very big with the 8th house eclipses. Also, it can deal with like something that happens just randomly out of nowhere, particularly money that comes out of nowhere. And also, like if you're like a waitress or an entrepreneur or the money that you get counts as other people's money because they are giving you their money. They are buying something. They are paying for a service or a product, or they're leaving you a tip. That counts as other people's money. So like eclipses there can just change up something about your finances. And so it can also change up something about your sex life. New sexual partner or a new way of creating intimacy may be discovered with an eclipse, a north node eclipse in the 8th house. Now with the south node being in your 2nd house of money, 2nd house also deals with morals. It deals with that physical touch. It's associated with Taurus energy, okay? So it can also deal with cuddles and the food that you eat, that you put into your body, types of food that you eat. For sure can be changing. Another thing, your money. Like you can be creating a new stream of income, a new way of making money. Also eclipses in the 8th house can deal with like passive income, investing. You may get a return on an investment or decide to start investing your money. Eclipses in the 2nd house can also deal with like money coming to you, changes in your job. I've seen changes in the way that you create money, changes in the way you spend money. You can even make like a very huge purchase, like a house, a car, something of the sort. Very big changes that way. And also your morals about something. Like there may be like a hill that you are willing to die on for a long time, and that may change. Like how you value yourself and your own self-esteem may be changing. If you are having eclipses and you have the north node in your 7th house and the south node in your 1st house, this is something where the universe is asking you, open yourself up to love. Open yourself up to who you can become when you have someone else in your life. North node eclipses in the 7th house can bring huge fated changes to your relationships, to your marriages, to the people that you connect with in business or your clients. Changes to one or all of those relationships. And it just seems like the universe is teaching you something about your love life, something about what you want out of your love life. With the south node in your 1st house, it's very much like the universe is asking you to let go of aspects of yourself that aren't really serving you anymore, old versions of yourself that are holding you back, old ideals, old like attitudes towards life. Because it's important to remember that the 1st house and the 7th house are some of the most important houses in your birth chart, period. They're angled houses. And so anytime you have eclipses here, they are going to change your life through and through. It's gonna be pretty intense. So like I said, eclipses, they're huge new beginnings, huge endings. So you can kind of have this huge new beginning in a relationship, but also like an ending of some version of yourself, an ending of who you are when you were single. Some people get married with eclipses, especially north node eclipses in the 7th house. That's definitely like a marriage type of indicator, and it's kind of like, okay, this version of yourself that you're letting go of is the version of you who wasn't married, who didn't have children, or like who didn't live in a certain place, or like it's just a version of you that is wanting to be released, trauma that wants to be released, especially with those south node 1st house eclipses. Let me go do some research for you to see if I can remember my own experience. The last time I experienced these, I was like 8 years old. Like I was like 8 and 9. Oh, and you know what? I remember this. This was around the time where I had a certain best friend, and this best friend and I, like, we became really close. We were really hanging out a lot. I was like, as a kid, a lot more like introspective. Like I don't want to say a loner, but like kind of like I had friends that I would hang out with like at school, but I wasn't like one of those kids who was like out with people in the neighborhood, you know. And so when the north node was in my 7th house, I kind of started hanging out with my best friend a lot. We started doing a lot of stuff together. I was just having very like noticeable experiences with other people. So it wasn't just with them, but it was also like, okay, with my parents, I was having like a pretty interesting point in life, you know, like around that time, like I was going through like a custody battle. I was like 8. So like a lot was changing, but specifically when it comes to other people, like it was discovering a best friend and like that friendship lasting for years and years, and it was like very deep and intricate to like who I was. Like we were like inseparable. That was like my person. Like if you ever seen Grey's Anatomy, how like Meredith and Christina are, that was my person. So like that was when I was like getting closer to that person. So like maybe that's something that's happening for you with eclipses going on through those houses. And also like keep in mind, I was just a kid, so like astrology for children is very different from astrology for adults. Like I'm sure if I was older, and I'm sure later on in the future when I have this again, I'm sure it'll be much more romantic relationship type of things. But also you have to remember that I have the energy of Aquarius in my 7th house, so like the energy of Aquarius is friends. So you know, like I said, you have to keep in mind which sign the north and south nodes are in, because the energy of Aquarius is very much the energy of friends. Now if I had Libra in my 7th house, I'm sure maybe there would have been like a crush at school that I was like talking with or something. Okay, so if you're having eclipses with the north node in your 6th house and the south node in your 12th house, this can be changes that the universe is pushing you towards when it comes to your physical health, when it comes to your jobs, the way that you make money, your work output, the things that you do on a daily basis, and also even your pets. So like there can be changes to a relationship with a pet. So like an eclipse, a north node eclipse specifically in your 6th house might look like you getting a new job opportunity, like a job coming to take you from the job that you already have, like a different job offer, or like really changing what you want to do like with your career. Because whenever we're looking at the 6th house, we're also, this is one of the earth houses and it deals with Virgo energy, and so this is an area of your life where you're very dedicated and where you consistently put the work in. So yeah, I don't really think I have many personal experiences with this, because the last time I had the north node in my 6th house and the south node in my 12th house, I was about 10. So I don't know, it just looks like changes that I was having in school. Like the 6th house can be like, okay, if you're in school, then it's school. If it's you have a job, then it would be your job, or like wherever it is that you spend your time. So like if you're a stay-at-home mom, it would be your tasks, your daily responsibilities, things that you are kind of like obligated to do, that you're kind of dedicating yourself to on the daily. So for me, I don't know, I mean, I was doing pretty well in school. Maybe that was it. Maybe it can be like an achievement in job or promotion in your job. May not always be a job change with North Node eclipses in the 6th. I was a child, so I don't have like an adult experience with this yet. I'm sure when I have it, I will come to YouTube and I will let y'all know. And with the South Node in your 12th house, it's very much like, okay, what do you need to let go of mentally? Yeah, South Node in your 12th house can be like you really needing to let go of like things that are holding you back mentally. Like the 12th house energy is very much like your mental health. It can deal with like your connection with the divine, your connection with the unseen and like the occult, witchcraft, even these deeper types of things like that. So you may have like very intense dreams when you're having eclipses. You may have like prophetic dreams when there are eclipses, South Node eclipses in your 12th house. Now, the energy of the 12th house can also deal with hidden enemies. And so with the South Node there, it can kind of reveal a hidden enemy to you. And not saying, you know, oh, this is someone who is actively working against you, which it can be, but it can just be someone who just like isn't good for you, you know, whether they know it or not. And maybe, you know, that person may be getting eclipsed out of your life. It can be a habit, it can be some sort of addiction that has come to like a peak, a breaking point even, and like something needs to change, something needs to be eclipsed. And especially with the North Node in the 6th house, like physical health issues need to be adjusted. You may find yourself improving from like some sort of health issue that you had, but you know, really letting go of mental health issues, getting help for your mental health issues, getting into therapy, getting into bodily wellness, like just doing better, taking care of yourself. Maybe you can be going to yoga or something. Eclipses between the 6th and the 12th are very much mental, and they're very much physical. Like these are changes that you will see in the physical world, especially 6th house eclipses, and 12th house eclipses are very much mental. It's the internal dialogue, it's that internal relationship to self, that internal relationship to source. Yes, actually, now that I think about it, I have a client who is experiencing the North Node in the 6th and South Node in the 12th. They had gotten like a promotion, changes towards like their job, what they were doing in that job. Now with the North Node in the 5th house and the South Node in the 11th house, and if you're having eclipses there, you are being led towards love, my love. Like life right now is telling you, babes, I want you to consider sex for a moment. It can also deal with your creativity. It can deal with like the art that you create. So if you make art, physical art, if you make music, if you're an actor, if you are a content creator, there are a lot of fated experiences that you are having that the universe is pushing you towards. And it can be towards changes in your love life. You know, you might be getting rid of a lover, getting into a lover. Anytime I see eclipses in a romantic house, it's like, okay, it's a makeup or it's a breakup. You know, one of those things. I mean, it doesn't always mean it can be a breakup. Sometimes eclipses in the 5th house can be like you getting pregnant, your significant other getting pregnant, or adopting a child, like integrating children into your life. Very big thing with North Node 5th house eclipses. So whenever you're having eclipses and it's like South Node is in your 11th house, it can definitely deal with like getting rid of toxic friendship groups or getting rid of like communities that you belong to. And a community can just be like the One Direction fandom, it can be like a church you belong to, it can be any group of people that like kind of have like a similar vibe or sense of camaraderie between you guys. Very much friendship. Also the internet, so eclipses there can kind of cause kind of chaotic situations with friends, internet, audience, networking, people who are paying attention to you. It may be time to let somebody go. It can be time to like let go of perception of something, let go of a perception towards a certain group, let go of a perception towards certain friendships, let go of like a certain relationship with the internet, maybe even your phone. Doom scrolling on the internet, you know, very important to let that go, especially with an eclipse in the 11th. But yeah, also like with the North Node in your 5th house too, it's kind of like life is leading you to have more fun, more enjoyable experiences, and it's kind of like leading you towards the correct people that you want to have in your life, the pack for you. Yeah, when I was experiencing this, I was 12, so I don't have like a big personal example, but I do remember this was around the time that it was like yeah, it was around the time that I like discovered One Direction. I was like really into them. I was having a lot of fun with my friends. Oh yeah, and I also had a friend that I really enjoyed. Like I had, like, it was a new best friend and like clique outside of the usual friends that I would hang out with. Honestly, me, just like my whole life, I was a bit more shy and kind of pulled back. And so for me, this is like me getting into middle school. I'm like finding all these new hobbies that I enjoy. I'm having more fun with the internet. I was spending a lot more time on the internet too with the South Node in my 11th. But honestly, I was just having a grand old time. Me and my friends, me and my chums. This was around the time where I was like getting my first real like social media presence. Like I created my first little Instagram and I would post funny memes all the time, those types of things. But obviously that was my life when I was a child. So I would expect North Node eclipses in the 5th to be very much like lovers, changes to your lovers, possibly having children, spending a lot more time around children, and letting go of bad friendships, or honestly just like letting go of previously conceived notions about certain people or friendships itself. Becoming a lot more social and kind of like releasing something to do with the state of your social life right now. Like the 11th house deals with your social life, right? Like I was a lot more socially active. So changes to your social life you can expect with like South Node eclipses in your 11th. So if you're having eclipses, specifically with the North Node in your 4th house and the South Node in your 10th house, this is a time where it's very important to pay attention to your family. You might be moving, something in your personal life might be changing. I've also noticed with like 4th house transits too, it can deal with your personal life. So like some people may get married, you know, whenever you're getting married, this person is now becoming a part of your family. You know, if something happens to you and you're at the hospital, like they're not gonna ask your parents what to do with you or whatever, like to make the decisions. They're gonna go to your spouse because that's your family now. So some people may get married when they're having North Node eclipses in the 4th house, expanding their family, having children, taking children in, adopting children. The 4th house and the 10th house are some of the most important houses in your birth chart. So these eclipses are going to be a lot more noticeable and a lot more eventful than other eclipses have been in the past. And so South Node eclipses in the 10th house are very much changing of a direction in the overall path of your life, changing of the career, letting go of like old things in your career that don't really work anymore, changing up your goals. It's kind of like coming to your vision board in the middle of the year and like changing some things, like, okay, I don't want that anymore, but I want this instead. Huge changes in the job front. Very much like, you know, there may be a move that you have to take because of work. You know, you may even get like a job offer, or really, like I said, it depends on the sign and like where the ruler of the eclipse is going to be. It's kind of going to give you like a good idea of some things. I can't really give you much of my personal experience with this because I was too young to like really have some of these like bigger career changes. Yeah, changes to where you live. I don't know, around that time I kind of decided like what I wanted to do for my career, which honestly, I don't know, I kind of stuck to that for a long time. Like I was kind of like in middle school around the time where I was like, okay, I'm gonna be a doctor. And you know, I stuck to that. Like I graduated high school, like I went to college to become like, I was pre-med in college, like, and so this was kind of like, sometimes the eclipses can even be like a firm decision that you're making that's kind of gonna alter your life path, particularly with the South Node 10th house eclipses. Someone I can think of right now who's like having changes to this, Ariana Grande, she has the South Node in her 10th house. She's been having eclipses there and it's really been changing up. Like right now she just recently released an album and like she's talking about like things in her career that were preventing her from properly enjoying her career. Obviously she's a pop star, so her career is music, you know. And so like I watched an interview where she's talking about how she had to like draw a line between human Ariana and like pop star Ariana. So like this void between, okay, who she is and then who she needs to be for her career. And she's kind of letting go of like the toxic things that she needed to do to dehumanize herself to do her job. Like she's becoming more heartfelt in a way and just really finding a way to enjoy her career. Just because the South Node is somewhere, particularly your 10th house, doesn't mean that you're like getting fired or whatever. Like it just means that like there are changes. Like you're letting go of like what you don't need, letting go of old baggage, so that you can welcome all of these blessings coming on into your personal life too. Because like I said, like you can't really have one eclipse without also talking about the other house that's involved. Okay, so if you are having eclipses where the north node is in your 3rd house and the south node is in your 9th house, this is a time where you are being asked to let go of old beliefs. And I vividly remember when I was having these eclipses. Where do I even start? I was like 14 or 15, and I was just really changing up like my personal beliefs, my morals, letting go of some of the conditioning that I had growing up. Because, you know, I grew up in an area that was like predominantly white and like all of these things, and so I was kind of looking at the world in a different way, and it was changing up things in my friendships. I was seeking out friendships that could kind of relate to me a bit more, that could kind of relate to my experience as someone who is a person of color. It was a big deal to me. But, you know, there were changes in my friendships. I was making really close friendships at the time with the north node in my 3rd house. Now some people, when it comes to school, you know, you guys might be finishing up a degree, finishing up a course, changing up the books that you're reading, the content that you're taking into your brain, especially with north node in the 3rd house, changing up the books that you read. Maybe all of a sudden you're becoming a reader. You're being asked to take in some more information, to learn some things. This may be a particularly strong learning period for you. These things that you're learning may require you to open your mind or to let go of some of your older beliefs. And like I said, the sign matters. I have the sign of Libra in my 3rd house. The energy of Libra is very much justice, relationships, but particularly social justice. I was wanting friends who were activists, and I was like becoming more active in those types of spaces. And I was suddenly realizing how important it was for me to find those kind of connections. For you, you might find yourself making new friends all of a sudden, like also even getting a new car. Like the 3rd house can deal with like transportation. Yeah, so an eclipse in the 3rd house can definitely look like you buying a new car, getting a new car, or like even like having your car go in for work or something. But it's a huge life change to like your friends, like information that's like in your head. You know, you might be learning new things, getting changes to your beliefs, especially with 9th house south node eclipses. You could even be like getting into arguments with friends, cutting friends off, meeting new friends. Okay, so if you are having eclipses with the north node in your 2nd house and the south node in your 8th house, the universe is pushing you towards creating income for yourself, creating money. How do you make money? What do you spend that money on? You might even be like making big purchases like houses, cars. Eclipses in the 2nd. I remember that was around the time for me when I got like my first job and I was having my first paycheck, and like I was getting used to what it was like to like make money for myself, and I was enjoying it and realizing like how much I actually really like working, and it was a cool time for me. But also like eclipses in the 2nd house can also deal with like your morals and like how you value yourself. So you can definitely have a big glow up, or there can be some faded experience that causes you to like take your power back, to find your self-worth. Especially with the south node being in your 8th house. Like the 8th house is intimacy, the 8th house is grief, it's the occult, it's all of that. It can be also money that you get from other people, money that is shared. So definitely with the south node in the 8th, it's definitely like asking you to not to be so financially dependent on other people, and not be so dependent on money from investing, like not be so dependent on money that is shared. Also, eclipses in the 8th house can be like divorce types of things, especially south node eclipses in the 8th house. The 8th house does deal with divorce, deals with deeper types of transformation, and I think like especially if you're creating new values, then of course there has to be some divorce from something in your life that is tied to those values, if that makes sense. But yeah, like eclipses in the 2nd house can literally just look like a windfall of money. It can look like a job opportunity, getting a new job. It can look like also changing the food that you put inside of your body. The 2nd house deals with, you know, it can deal with food. It deals with Taurus energy. It deals with work, the way that you make money, the way you spend money. It deals with your self-worth, your sense of self-worth. So you may experience things under a north node eclipse in your 2nd house that's asking you to value yourself better, stand on your boundaries, stand on that business. Like, and with the South Node and the 8th, it's very much like asking you, okay, if you have sexual partners, are these the people that you want to continue being intimate with? It can be an eclipsing of some of that out. But it can also be just a huge change in the way that you generate income, the way that you spend income. You may become more financially literate with eclipses either in the 2nd or the 8th house. But definitely, like, when you're having an eclipse there, take a look at your bank account. The 2nd house is very much the money that's in your bank account. It's the money that you are generating for yourself. Some people get new jobs, they get promotions, they start up new businesses, change up something about their financial literacy, they may learn something, take a course. And yeah, so for me, I was just a teenager. I had my first job, but you know, I was still a child, you know, so some of those more mature things I didn't really experience. So like I said, take this with a grain of salt because that's just my experience. Yeah, let me know down in the comments what your experience with eclipses in your 2nd house or 8th house have been. But with that being said, I love you guys. Make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know what you think in the comments. If you have any like random experiences with the eclipses, let me know. I'm nosy. Y'all know that. I love y'all and bye.